We're in the middle of Robert and Kelly Canfield's story. We've been talking about Pompe disease, and we've been talking about how God gives grace, and it's been a wonderful time. I think you're enjoying it. I know you are. You have to be. The Holy Spirit's brought you to here to watch, and He's also speaking to your heart with your situation. And today, I want to focus, Robert and Kelly, on how though you've been through the pit, God has given you tremendous opportunities. You have spent how many years again with Pompe that you've known?
2014.
2014. But in those 12 years, talk to us about ministry. How many times have you gotten to speak and maybe your ability to deal with the disease even opened the door for you to speak?
I would say the majority of the time that I've been invited to speak, it's been on dealing with suffering or some sort of calamity or something. So I would say that the majority of the time that I've been able to.
And God's opened that door many times, and in many places. And that would not have happened if you weren't suffering. So it's easy to come up with the idea, boy, poor me, and play victim. Do you feel like a victim?
No, not at all. No, the Lord's been far too good to us in all of this for me to play victim, for me to feel like, woe is me. He's been really good to us in all of this.
And Robert, do you feel like a victim?
Sometimes I might, I'll be honest.
Well, I want you to be honest.
Yeah.
I think people listening, they can spot fake.
Yeah. I haven't always responded well, and I've done wrong. But you brought up the thing with ministries and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things is Kelly said 2014 since she had Pompe, but she was diagnosed with limb-girdle before that.
Well, what is that disease exactly?
Well, limb-girdle is just a form of muscular dystrophy where your legs, right, your limbs, your arms, and this area right in here loses strength, and you just become an invalid. Pompe has, like you said at the first session, or the first one that we did, it just, the same area is affected, her legs and stuff like that. It's just a different reason why.
But so y'all dealt with that before you dealt with Pompe?
Yeah, and so when the doctor told us that.
Well, how far back was that?
That was over 14 years ago. It was 14 and a half years ago, or maybe even more than that. Almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 15 years ago. And so we were told we had limb-girdle, and then we're like, yes, and that's when you asked how long, and they said 15 or 5, 10, 20 years, we don't know. And then so I was like excited, we were excited that we had a name for it. And so Kelly, obviously, she asked, like, so what do I do? And he said, well, you just try to, like she said, have a good attitude. And then he referred her down to the muscular dystrophy clinic there at Emory University. Did he not? He said, you could go there if you wanted to. He was not, he didn't really say these are the steps.
Because he thought he had it, right?
Well, yeah,
He thought he'd figured it out.
Yeah.
He said that we could do gene therapy, or we could do genetic testing to figure out exactly what kind, because there are multiple kinds of muscular dystrophies. But at that time, insurance didn't cover it as an elect. It wouldn't be medically necessary, and at that time, genetic testing was exorbitantly expensive.
I'm sure it still is, but
Yeah.
So we just left it at that. We just accepted that it was limb-girdle.
So she wanted to figure out what she could do, and she wanted to figure out. And so whenever you go to doctors, right, they always have to, oh, that's great that he diagnosed you. We want to do our own diagnosis. And so we went to the muscular dystrophy clinic there at Emory, and we had several muscle biopsies there. And that.
Wait a minute. People listening don't know what that means. So, Kelly, would you describe a muscular biopsy?
A muscle biopsy? It's where they take a core sample of your muscle.
What does it mean they take a core sample?
They sliced my thigh open about that much and took a slice out of my thigh muscle and sewed it back up.
So they cut out a big chunk of it.
They did that one, and the other one they did like a core sample, right?
Which means what? They drilled a hole in?
It's like a screwdriver, but they take a core of your muscle, right? So it's not just a top layer. So they went down.
That was painful?
It was.
Yeah.
It was painful.
It's still sensitive.
It's still sensitive till today.
When it's cold outside, I can.
So some people feel the cold in their bones.
I feel it in the scar tissue that's surrounding where they took that biopsy.
When people go through sicknesses, it's not always the sickness that always they have to struggle with. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the procedures, sometimes it's the symptoms, sometimes it's just like you're at the hospital by yourself. I remember when she had that muscle biopsy. I was like all by myself sitting down there. I was like, no one cares. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't the disease like that.
Let's stop right there. No one cares. That is about as normal a thing to think. And I think the people listening would maybe feel that. I felt that. I mean, and I know it's not true.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's not. I mean, y'all have cared. The Lang and Faith have cared. The people at my church have cared. I'm not saying nobody, but boy, it can come, can it?
Oh man, I'll never forget. She was in the operating thing. She was having the procedure. They put you under.
They did, like a Twilight kind of thing.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting out there in the waiting room all by myself, and I'm like, there's nobody here with me. And like it's like my mind went to the negative. You know what I mean? It just went to the, no one's here with me. Boo-hoo, you know what I mean? And that's just I don't know. I know some people go to the hospitals and they don't have anybody around them. And a lot of times you just feel like there's no one's here with us. You know what I mean? This is just us. And it wasn't just the disease, you know what I mean? It was just then I guess the consequences of the disease that plays with the person's mind and heart. It's like that the whole thing. And so we did that, and me as the husband, and this is not my, but I remember I'm like, I got to pay for all this stuff. And that put me in a tizzy. I would like run out to the mailbox before she could and try to figure out the bills so she didn't have to worry about it. So it wasn't just the disease that was a big issue. And she even brought up like insurance. There was insurance problems that she had. Like there would be months. Am I fair to say months? At least at 1 month, several treatments that you would miss.
While I was waiting for prior authorizations, yes.
And so we had to deal with that frustration. So you deal with the finances and you deal with like there's nobody here, and it's just like, I mean, it's not just like, yeah, I got muscular dystrophy, or yeah, I got Pompe disease, and or I got this disease that just plays with the person's mind and heart. It's like, it's just so multifaceted.
It is, and I do want to go back. I did say, you asked me if I'm tempted to live as a victim. In general, I'm not. But and looking back, thinking through these things, I am reminded of some times where I had really had to struggle, where I struggled a lot with. I talked to you about how the loss of the dream of living on the mission field and serving on the mission field, and I dealt a lot. We were in a church where it was very heavily missions focused, and lots of people were going to the mission field, and I dealt a lot with jealousy and envy for all the people that would get to go, and I'd have to stay behind. A lot of times, there were some particular circumstances where, I was even angry at, I would know of other women who had a bad attitude about getting to go, not wanting to go, and having to go because that's what their husband wanted to do. And I remember I'd just be so angry at them, not to their face or anything, but just internally. And then I'd be angry with the Lord, like, why are you letting her go when she doesn't want to go? And I've begged you, so there are times where that victim mentality did come up. But with the Lord's grace and help, that's fewer and further between now than it was in the early days.
I'll come back to that in just a second. But something that I'm thinking about right now is you had one more massive, dark bit of news to hit you. And I know you know even now what I'm talking about, but our listeners probably don't. You found out you had Pompe's disease. You found out that it would limit the length of your life, probably. You found out you would be dealing with junk all your life, financial issues all your life, and then one day you noticed something with your daughters.
Yes, so Pompe disease is a genetic disease, and so we already had Charlotte and Ann by the time we found out that I had Pompe disease, but it's genetic. So we talked to the doctors about, do they need to be tested? And the doctor said, well, the chances that they would have this disease are astronomically slim. And it is true. Like, it's very rare for it to be a parent-child. It's usually parent-grandchild or parent nephew or niece or something like that, the way that the genetics work. And so we didn't do anything about that. They said the only way that it would even be possible is if Robert were a carrier, but we didn't get him tested either because, again, genetic testing.
It takes both of you to have the genetic.
It's a rare disease. I said, this is a rare disease.
1 in 40,000 worldwide.
Was it the last State of the Union that Trump had in his first term? He brought up the person that had Pompe as a rare disease to use in the State of the Union. So it's not something that's normal that most people have.
Yes, so with Anne, our second born, I started noticing some things that she met all the milestones, so the doctors weren't worried, but she didn't meet them in the same time frame that Charlotte met them. She met them later than Charlotte did, the walking and moving, and she always felt a little more soft. I don't know how to describe it other than
Not
that.
the firmness of muscles. Normally.
And there were some other things that she struggled, that I felt like I saw a struggle with her, and so I had to go through this whole process in my head. Am I projecting this onto my child? Is this really true? Is this is this in my head? Am I thinking this, or am I just seeing things because I'm looking through things in a filter that nobody else looks through? And so I got to the point where I couldn't put that out of my head anymore. I couldn't dismiss it. And so then I was like, Robert, what do you think? And so I had to wait for him at that point. I felt like, anyway, I had to wait for him to go through that whole process of, we're just projecting. He had to go through all those stages. And so finally he got to a point, at least from my point of view, and he can share his, where I felt like he was at the same way. He's like, okay, let's just go and get her tested.
Before Robert talks, one question. One of the things I seem to remember is that when you bounce a baby up and down, they jump on their feet, but Anne would just not throw her feet down.
I think so. I think if I remember that right, she was later to walk. I mean, it was still within the normal range, but she wouldn't bounce up and down. I do remember that. And so we went and had her tested, and I already, like, in my heart, I already knew that it was going to come back. So the fact when they called and said that it is Pompe, and I mean, my genetic counselor said, because you're mom and we trust mom's instincts, we'll test her. She said, but I will let you know that the chances of her having this are going to be zilch. Like, nobody was expecting for it to come back as her having Pompe. And so I was like, okay. And the way that showed us then that Robert is a carrier, and I have the disease. So that means that each one of our children would have a 50% chance of having Pompe, or 50% not having Pompe. So to get that diagnosis for Anne, it wasn't a shock to me in my mind. It was real rough. It was real rough for Robert. But then, because Anne had it, we had to test Charlotte because she's a sibling. That one was the hard one for me when we found out that Charlotte had it. Not that I love her more or Anne less. I had already resigned in my...
At least one. Could I have one that's healthy?
Yeah. Well, I had already resigned in my mind that Anne had it. So but to find out that Charlotte did as well, when she had firm muscles and she walked early and she did all of these things, that one really shocked me, threw me for a loop. And I do remember we were, the church, you and Miss Betty and the missionaries and the church were so gracious and kind to send us away to Disney World, and that we got Charlotte's the phone call about Charlotte while we were at Disney World in the hotel room, and I do remember going to Robert and just telling him how sorry I was that he had married me and that he has to deal with not just a wife that's sick, but kids that are sick too, which is not the right way to think, because God formed me exactly how he formed me. He gave me the DNA that he gave me. He gave the girls the DNA that he gave them. But in that moment, that was real difficult, dealing with Charlotte like that, yes. And again, I knew, like in my heart, I knew. And so it was more like, okay, we're going to face this. We're going to get this done. But that shock was hard.
Robert, what were you feeling?
I guess I still feel numb. When she told me, you got to deal with the issue at hand, which is you want to encourage your wife. Needless to say, I think we ended that trip a little early.
We came back a day early, yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to give their kids something. That they're going to struggle with. Nobody wants to cause their kid's life to be harder. I know I'm evil, and I want to give my kids good gifts. Just, you ask me how I feel. I don't know. It's one of those topics I try not to think about. We have it pretty good. When we go to the doctors to get checkups, they have other kids there with Pompe. They have an adult onset, which means it's later on in life, and we're learning that with the advancement in medicine that's manageable. And there's other people there that they really struggle with, like is their kid going to live type thing.
Because if they have infantile, they die shortly, don't they?
It just doesn't affect their muscles, it affects their hearts.
Mm-hmm. When we take Charlotte and Ann to the muscular dystrophy clinics at Children's, the doctors, they're all just very pleased with how strong they are. They're like, they tell them every time we go, they're like, you're the strongest kids we're going to see today. So the Lord's been good to us even with their strength. He's allowed them to be really strong girls.
Yeah. But there is a lot of people around the world that are hurting, and when you go there and you see them, and can't help but think that God loves them too. And so I don't know what to say about all that. Like I said, I don't.
I think it's a good time, Robert. You currently, I've asked you over and over to let people know why you don't live on the mission field, and you're a missionary raising support. And I thought when I decided I wanted to interview you, I thought this might be a way people would find out the real story. You could say to them, watch the videos, and you'll get our real story. So tell us the name of your ministry and what you do, just a little bit. We don't have a lot of time in today's broadcast.
Yeah, it's called Taking the Light Ministries, and like Kelly said, we had the dream to go to the mission field.
It was in your heart.
It was in my heart.
You wanted it. Both of you did.
We planned the path. I felt like we were accomplishing the goals that were necessary in order to accomplish the desire of going to the mission field and seeing churches started and people's lives being changed in the gospel going forward. But our feet got directed in a different path. And I preached a message about David and how he too had a desire to see something for God. He wanted to build a temple, but God had other plans. And so he didn't get to build the temple per se, and it wasn't David's temple, but he provided all the materials and he provided all the blueprints. And God still gave him Jesus, and God was still a great God, and he's still a great God with us. And so we're just trying to do what we can to help missionaries and national pastors get the gospel out to places.
You're still not answering my question. Why can't you go to the field?
Oh, why can't I go to the field? Well, I got to take care of my family. I got to take care of my wife and daughters.
Tell them what goes on with you.
So I have to get an infusion of that enzyme I don't make enough of. They figured out how to make a synthetic.
Thank God
version
for
of it.
Thank God
Yes.
for the medical advances are astonishing.
Yes, yes. And so I get an infusion
So where are you getting your treatments mostly?
at home.
Is it Duke or is it Emory? Both of them.
Emory overseas. Duke is where the very first enzyme medicine was created. But Emory oversees my treatment and my care. But they let me get my infusions at home because I've adapted so well to the infusions, and so one of my best friends gets to give me my infusions every 2 weeks, and the infusion itself is 4 hours, but the whole process, mixing the medicine and monitoring, it's about a 5 to 6 hour long
And you do that how
process
often?
every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
It's an IV infusion.
What happens if you miss it?
If I miss one or so, it's not that big of a deal, but once you start infusions, you're on them for life. And those people who have opted or have not been able to keep their infusions because of insurance reasons or things like that, after a few weeks worth or a couple months, they start to see dramatic declines. So it's a necessary thing for me to have these
The
infusions.
answer about why y'all don't go to the mission field is Kelly has to have these infusions. Your family has been racked with both birth daughters have the disease. You're a carrier. You have to have infusions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obvious that God redirected your path. You're still doing the same thing you would do. Fact is, you've lived overseas, Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
for what? How long?
We lived in Peru doing an internship as part of our training and preparation for 6 months. And I had spent a summer in Albania before I met Robert.
And then also you make trips. You just have to plan them around your. And so, Robert, you still hit the field regularly, but again, everything has to be planned around the disease.
Life does. Yes, life.
So let's end this. Give me the encouraging word. Tell our listener who's dealing with, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's Pompe, or maybe it's Addison's disease, or maybe it's another. It could be any number of diseases. And they're hurting. And you really can be an authority here, because I think what you got and what's going on with your family is up there pretty high. So what would you say if you were saying to them, listen to me, here's some encouragement?
I'd say that your story's not finished yet, that He'd love to be able to work in your life and to use you and to use the story that He's writing with the things that you're going through to help others, and to use the comfort wherewith He's comforted you to comfort others.
Sometimes, Robert, because I deal with my problems and my wife is my caretaker, I think it's worse for you than it is for me. It's worse for you than my wife suffers in a way I don't suffer. So could I have a word of encouragement for those who have to take care of a spouse?
I would say a word of encouragement that God hasn't left you. He's with you. He's teaching you. And if you come at it with His power and His Spirit through His Word, and you come at it with joy, I mean, you can have a sweet time still. The first question you asked at the beginning of the session was what ministries have you done? I think it's great that Kelly's got to speak to a whole bunch of different people, but I mean, we've been in a room full of doctors and geneticists, and they're saying stuff, and we're like, wait, this is what's God. We've got a lot of people that's been praying for this. I mean, we think that sometimes the biggest ministry platform is saying something in a church. But, I mean, we've got to see God work great and tell other people that don't darken the door of a church. And we get to display, you know what I mean, to our family that we're going to have joy in this too. And they can wonder, like, how can this person have joy? And it's only because what Jesus has done in our hearts. That's the only reason why. It's because we have hope, not in just this life, but also in the life to come. And so I would say the caretakers, I mean, just draw nigh to God and he'll draw nigh to you, and use it for his glory, because the things that's happened is to manifest his power and his strength. And so that's what I would say.
As we close today, I just want to tell all of you that God came from God, Jesus, and was made human flesh, and he lived among us so that he feels every pain you're going through. He feels every desperation. He feels every hurt. He cares about you. And you are not alone. And if you'll just trust Jesus, who died on the cross to save you, was buried, rose again to give you eternal life, to let you know the Father. And I just want you to know that you don't have a Savior who's not feeling. He can be touched with the feelings of your infirmities. So if you need help, I want to help you. You can get in touch with Robert and Kelly and get in touch with myself. We want this to be a blessing to you. And I thank you for listening. Let me remind you, you are followed by mercy. The Bible says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And no matter if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to fear evil, because he is with me. He's got a rod and a staff he's going to beat the enemy with. He's going to take care of you. So we love you, and God bless you. Thank you very much.